They say hunting and fishing can be dated back more than 2 million years. Throughout the years, the historic angler and hunter has steadily evolved into the avid hunter and angler that we know and love today. Welcome to the Outdoor Defiance podcast. As you listen, you will hear comical stories, companies talking about their products, researchers talking about their research, and overall ways to help you become a better outdoorsman. Welcome to today's episode.
All right. Hey, everybody. It's Gunner back with the Outdoor Defiance Team OD podcast. I'm not really sure which one this is at this point. We're like, I think 12 in, maybe 11. We're right in that range. I think it's 12 or 13. But this one's super exciting for me, Mr. Bailey Pearson. Did I say that right?
Yes, sir.
He does some pretty cool things with some, well, I'll just let him explain it. But first thing I'm going to ask you is what got you in the outdoors and, why do you love it so much? Well, yeah. So you told me through text you've been turkey hunting. You tagged out, correct? Am I right when I say that?
Oh yeah, it's been a pretty easy year
Yeah.
here in Missouri. I got my first one. So the season would open up Monday. I got it Tuesday last week, crawling behind the fan. Probably made a 80-yard stock on it, and I had 4 redheads coming in, and unfortunately I killed a Jake. All I could see was heads. They popped up out of the draw about 10 yards, and all I seen was 4 redheads. So I shot the lead bird, I thought, but it was a Jake.
Yeah.
But I was still pretty happy. And then I tagged out with my other my second week bird yesterday, and again the same thing, almost the same exact thing. I was crawling behind a fan another 30-40 yards, and I had birds coming in, and I put the smack down on another.
Yeah, me and Taylor just got back from Tologa, Oklahoma, in that area. We guided some veterans out there. This is our 3rd year we've done it, and it was our best year. My gosh, but before we got there, the guy that runs it, like his house that everybody camps at, he's like, man, this is like the worst year I think we might have. We haven't been seeing birds like normal. There was a big fire way off, and they were like, yeah, we had a big fire. I'm like, well, there's a good chance a bunch of your turkeys went over to that fire.
Yeah.
But we ended up showing up, and we just found bird after bird after bird the night before the hunt and everything. And we drew straws because we roosted some birds. And that first group got to get in there. They smoked two birds. And then, so I'm on the hilltop. So we were kind of calling back there to try to find another bird. But after they shot those 2, I saw where those other birds went, and we just kind of worked our way around, and we found actually looking for where those birds went. We found another group of birds crossing the road, and we shot birds there. And then that evening we got another guy, his first bird with his bow. That was awesome. That was a funny story because it took him. He had that new, those new Garmin sights.
With the rangefinders and stuff.
Yeah. He bought one of those, and I guess it was ranging wrong because the first 2 shots he was like, I kid you not, like 10 foot short, twice in a row. And then he shot a 3rd time and like cut his throat. And I was like, man, that was a crazy shot. I was like, where were you aiming? He's like, oh, the head. I'm like, you're crazy. He's over there. He's over there lugging arrows at him. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty biased on my shed hunting. I love it, but if I had to choose an animal to hunt for the rest of my life, it'd probably be turkey.
Yeah, I love
I
turkey
absolutely
hunting.
love it.
And it's no,
I mean, I love
you
deer
couldn't
hunting, and I
pay
love
me to stop turkey hunting.
oh for sure. I love deer hunting, and I love all the other stuff. But if I had to quit and pick just one, it'd be turkey hunting. That's for sure.
Do you do any fishing?
Oh
Or you
yeah.
just
I mean, I wouldn't say I fish as much as I, turkey hunt and stuff, but or hunt or shed hunt or do all that stuff. When you get tied up in so much of that stuff, you don't have time anymore. But yeah, I mean, I love it. We have trout streams down here, so I like trout fishing. We get a daily limit for trout, and then crappie. We love crappie fishing.
Yeah. So I want to kind of dive into the shed hunting aspect. So so for people that don't know and don't shed hunt a whole lot, what time of year, like at what point do you say, okay, I need to start looking?
Gotcha. So
Like really hard
it
looking.
yeah, it totally. I mean, there's all kinds of different factors that go into it and lead into it. I mean, location is a big thing. I know. I might start seeing deer shed on camera in January, even December. But I got guys in Iowa, not even 4 hours north of me, that have them holding until now. I mean, it's just crazy. So
Yeah.
I'd say a pretty good time to start looking is anywhere from February to in the later ends of March. That's usually a pretty good time when a lot of your deer are going to be shedding. And of course, mild winters, harsh winters, that all plays a big factor. Food. I mean, even a farm here that I have, say a mile from me compared to a farm 10 miles from here. I mean, it's such an intricate thing. You just never really know for sure. But, food, bedding, all that stuff. I mean, the deer pressure, it all plays big factors in when and where they're going to shed. You never know when, you never know where, but when you factor all of those things in and you put time into keeping track of that stuff, you have a pretty good idea and of when and where.
Yeah. It's always pretty cool to find. So like you harvest a deer and you have his sheds. It's kind of cool to see that evolution of, where he was to where he is now. Like whenever you ended up harvesting him, how have you gotten to like how often do you run into that, like where you find sheds and then, or like you find sheds that you harvested or find sheds that of another buck that somebody else later then harvests?
Absolutely. So I killed a buck, which is going to sound crazy. It's big for me, but knowing what you killed, it might not be that big. But I killed a 173 3/8. He only had 9 scoreable points, which is it's pretty dang good deer. I'll probably never beat it. But I ended up killing that deer on a farm that no trail cams, nothing. And turns out after I killed him, I was like, dude, I know that deer. I just know that deer. Never seen him, never had pictures, nothing. And I just clicked with me. My brother had a shed from that deer. We shed hunted the property before, but we never hunted it. It was the first time went in there, got lucky, killed the deer opening day. But turns out my brother had a shed from that buck, and it was the exact buck. He was just he just grew much bigger, and it's kind of like it's crazy to think of, but I can look at an antler and I could just immediately recognize, what deer it's from. And I think it adds so much more to it because, I love antlers. I love buying them. I love everything, but I love the history behind them. So like, especially with your buck, if you had an antler from your buck, oh, it'd be crazy.
I wish I did, man. I wish I did.
And it's crazy. Did that deer ever get aged?
Yeah. The deer lab, I forgot where I sent it. They said he was 6.5.
See, that's crazy. So there's got to be sheds out there somewhere floating around. You'd think maybe, and it's crazy too from like a collector's point of view. But the amount of big sheds and big racks that are coming out of barns and attics that have been hidden for years and years. So it could be. Surely there's a shed or two off that buck somewhere that someone's just got thrown in the garden bed or something. It's just crazy to think about. That's the stuff that keeps me going.
Have you ever just driven by and seen like a massive shed and like I gotta go ask that guy about that?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say massive, but I've definitely seen some antlers laying around, in people's garden beds that shouldn't be laying in garden beds. That's for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. See, some people throw them. I know a guy in Iowa who they own all kinds of cattle in and stuff. He lets me go up there and shed hunt and turkey hunt and stuff. But I said, "You find these sheds this year?" He's like, "Yeah, but nothing worth keeping." They pick them up and throw them in the weeds so they don't hit them with the tractor. It's just crazy. People don't think that, to keep that stuff or to, hang on to that kind of stuff.
Yeah. My dad loves to turkey hunt and shed hunt too. He always gets distracted this time of year though,
Looking
because
for him.
he's looking for that. He gets distracted because he's looking for mushrooms. And so like, if he had a choice, and I've told people this, if he had, one of the biggest sheds of all time in one corner, a couple mushrooms and a turkey, he'd just like dive on top of the mushrooms, kick the turkey out of the way, and make sure he avoided landing on the antlers. Like, that's just how much he loves trying to find those mushrooms. And we don't have, we used to have property before we sold it that had a bunch of morels on it. We just don't anymore. So every year he just gets so frustrated. I feel bad for him. But
yeah, that's nothing. I mean, I've never really got into that. I found them a couple times crawling for birds, but I've never even tried them. I picked them up and gave them away. It's just,
I could eat 100 of them, dude. Like,
I've never got into a mess of them. They say when you find them, they'll start popping up everywhere. But shoot, I picked up like 5. They're nothing. I'm sure they're around, but I don't have the patience to start looking for them. Like your dad, I get out there, I start looking for other stuff.
Yeah. So like, there's an old wise tale. I don't know how true or false it is. When you pick one up, you have to shake it and the spores come out.
Oh yeah.
So like when my dad, it's funny because if you pay attention, when he finds one, he'll pick it up and shake it when he walks around and then put it in the bag. And
trying to spread them spores. Yeah.
Just something he's always done. And I don't know how, effective or ineffective it is. Those are the things I notice just watching him. But
oh yeah. And there's factors for looking for those too. They say you look near, ash trees or deadfalls or all kinds of stuff. I could never get into it.
Yeah. My girlfriend, she just started hunting and stuff. I got her a bow. We've been trying to kill a turkey with her bow. She got obsessed with trying to shed hunt this year. I think that's going to be one of her favorite things to do in the future, because we had a few deer that on this particular property. We've only shed hunted one property really hard. We found 4 sheds on it. Now, we didn't probably hunt it as hard as like maybe you would have hunted it, shed hunting.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of other things at that point in time typically, but she gets really fascinated with antler growth too. And I think it's super cool to see like let's say you take a deer and it's his shed and he's got like a little characteristic that maybe doesn't pop out quite as much. And then that next year you're like, holy cow, that's really popping. And it's cool to see the characteristics and how they change as they, evolve through their life.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's crazy what a deer can do. It's like a fingerprint. No antlers. None are alike. There's always something that, differentiates it from something else. And it's even in, from wild deer to farm deer. Even farm deer, you're never going to get a rack that's like another. It's insane. Yeah. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's one of those things that keeps me going. You never know, if I'm going to talk to a farmer and he's going to whip out a shed that I've never seen, something like I've never seen before, or, it's crazy.
Yeah. What's the craziest one that you've picked up? Like, I guess, yeah, you can go into that, I guess.
Yeah. So I've bought a lot and it's crazy. I got one that I'm thinking off the top of my head, but I sold it to another collector, and it's one that it's probably something that I'll never get back. It's absolutely insane. It's probably the biggest one I've ever, been part of. It was in the 260s. Yeah, it's insane. It's hard to even fathom. But I will talk about other ones because, all you have in this business and in anything anymore is your word. And I told him I wouldn't go too crazy on it because he's a pretty private guy. But, I've picked up a 220s out of Missouri. That's probably, one of my biggest, aside from that, wild. It's absolutely insane. He's missing a G2 on his one side. If it was matching, he'd be like mid to high 230s, which is, again, crazy to even think of, out of Missouri. I've got sheds from, I don't know if you heard about the Hollywood buck out of Virginia. It was last season. So he was a big urban, one of those Seek 1 bucks and the guys just freak out over. This is him right here. So he was all kinds.
Oh yeah.
Photographed and stuff. Yep. So he ended up getting poached out of the cemetery last season.
Yeah.
Yep.
Golly. Yeah, I remember that now.
Yep. So I have his left side, which is the current Virginia state record, and he's missing. He's missing all kinds of inches and stuff. He's
Yep.
he's crazy.
Oh yeah, that is cool.
Yeah, he's got a big old beam on him and stuff. But yeah, even sheds like that with all the history and stuff, I just love it. When I got pictures of them, and there's hundreds and hundreds of pictures of that deer, and there's more sheds to it out there.
Mhm.
But I've bought some big antlers, but
Mhm.
90, 100-inch antlers, 200-inch sets, all that kind of stuff. But
Mhm.
when I get an antler like that with history behind it, like if I had an antler from your buck, it just make it worth so much more to me. I love the
Yeah.
history, and I love preserving
Uh-huh.
it and showing others. It's crazy. I mean, it's an addiction like anything else. It's kind of scary how much time and money and all this stuff that I put into it, because it's part of my life now. There ain't no going back. Yeah,
Mhm.
and I love every bit
Mhm.
of it. But yeah. But other than that, I've bought some cool ones. I like to collect freaks as well, so not always big antlers. So this is actually a farm antler that I have. It's one of the very few farm antlers I try to keep, but I'd put it up against any of my antlers. It's my favorite antler. It's a mini monster. It's over 100 inches, which is crazy to call it a mini, but it
Yeah.
is
Oh, that is crazy. Holy
it's hard
cow.
to tell how small it is, but it's over 100 inches.
Yeah. That's
It's
insane. It almost
it,
looks like someone like fabricated it. You know what I mean? Because it's just like they wanted to make just like a mini freak of it
It
a
is. It
size.
is. It's phenomenal. So I had another collector pull up to my house one time, and he had a truckload of antlers, and he was unloading some stuff. I was going to help him move and score and go through them, and I seen that sitting on the dash of his truck, and I was like, "What the heck is that?" And he's like, "That's an antler," and he pulled it out. It looked fake to me. I've never seen anything
Yeah.
like that. Something so big but so small, and I was like, I had to have it. So I tried for 2 years to get that thing, and I finally got it bought from him, and then I ended up selling it, and then I finally got it back within the last year, and it
Yeah.
won't ever leave again. I promise you that. It's a cool antler. I love it, and I had to pay
That's
a lot
pretty
more
neat.
than I did when I sold it. That's for sure.
Yeah. Are there a lot of collectors like you that like to you know, trade off and, buy other antlers from, I guess, shed
For
hunters
sure,
and other people?
I think for people who don't know, there's definitely a lot more than you'd probably think. I wouldn't say there's. Again, I'll go back to the baseball card analogy. I wouldn't say there's people like their amount that collect, that kind of stuff, like baseball collectors and stuff. They have arenas they could fill with people who
Mhm.
collect and are passionate about cards. But yeah, every year, so in Maquoketa, Iowa, there's the Great Iowa Antler Auction. It goes on twice a year, one in March and one in October. And the night before the auction, collectors from all over. We even got guys that drive or fly down from Canada, and we just fill the hotel room with antlers, and we all sit there and just go at it. But yeah, I'd say definitely a lot more people than you'd probably think who collect and deal with these things. But it's a pretty tight knit group, tight knit community,
Mhm.
and a bunch of good guys. I'd say over 90% of the guys, I'm sure you know this as much as anybody, but some of the guys you meet, they're just some of the nicest guys you'll ever meet in your whole life,
Mhm. Yeah.
and they're so passionate about it. You can relate to them, and they know the itch that you have to scratch all the time. They know all about it, and they're passionate about it as well. And it's definitely something I love to do for sure.
Mhm. So, so speaking of like different collectors talking to each other, how do you go about, say, like for me, I know how you talk to me, but like whenever you think of, somebody, you're like, hey, I like to, have something that goes back to, how do you go about thinking about how to contact these people? Like, are you like, okay, I'm gonna take this strategy, or you know what I mean? Like, how do you go about thinking about how you do that?
That's kind of hard too, because there's all kinds of different approaches you have to take sometimes.
Yeah.
So, if I'm dealing with another collector, they know how it is, so it's almost easier to buy from another collector, even if they're
Mhm.
so passionate about it and stuff like we are. And, they, you know, it's hard to talk someone out of your antler. Like, if I
Yeah.
threw a number at you right now for that rack, you probably never sell it, no matter what the number is. But if it's something I wanted, I'd just hound and try everything I could to get it. There's a guy here local who found an antler. I'll try to keep the details low about it just because
Yeah, you're
he's
fine. Yeah.
private stuff. But we've offered him $7,500 for the antler.
Yeah.
And it's just an antler that this kid found, and he just, I mean, he's not hurting for money or anything, and I'm happy for him almost that he doesn't want to sell it, because I know how it is. I'm so passionate about him too, and I don't blame him for not wanting to sell it. But it's one of the biggest and coolest antlers out there. There's only 2 of the kind ever recorded, and that's one of them, and that's the biggest, and it's crazy. Yeah. So, and trying to talk people out of like their personal finds and stuff, it's hard to do. It either goes one way or the other. So either the guy doesn't care and a couple $100 or a few $100, sounds pretty good, or, the guy is sentimental about it and he'll never let it go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's another different ball game too. Like if you had a shed from your buck, obviously, it would be worth a lot more than if it wasn't, if you didn't kill the buck. So having a shed off a world record or the state record or anything like that obviously shoots it up a little bit, but they're hard to get. There's so many people trying for them. The numbers get crazy high on them, stuff that I can't even touch. I've talked to other collectors and held some antlers that, are worth more than my car or my house. It's insane. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I see. I didn't even understand it was that, like, it'd get up to that range, and like
it is crazy.
The price. Yeah. I can almost understand in some aspects that some people like to hold on to things that are more sentimental, like you said, like if they harvested that buck, I can understand on that angle, but it's still wild to wrap your head around that market is like that.
It is crazy.
That's not part of that world like you are a part of. It's crazy for me to wrap my head around it.
Oh, for sure. I'm part of the world, and I still think it's crazy. Yeah.
Let's take a break from this podcast and talk about some awesome products.
Hey folks, let me tell you about GritKnives. They're not just your average knife company. They're all about high quality, affordable, and unique products that'll make your outdoor adventures legendary. From limited edition pocket knives to rugged fixed blades and precision scalpels, they've got it all. Plus, their logo wear will have you repping the brand wherever you go. So whether you're out in the field or tackling everyday tasks, trust GritKnives to be your go-to for top-notch gear that won't break the bank.
Are you looking for some of the best sounding turkey calls on the market? Then look no farther than JAG Calls. Since 2022, Team OD has been using their calls and have had great success doing so. 2 of my personal favorite calls are the Mother Clucker and the America. And if it has a name like that, it must be good. Check out JAG Calls, that's JAG Calls, out at jagcalls.com. Hey, and while you're at checkout, use OD 2024 for a discount. Once again, OD 2024 for your discount.
Now let's get back to today's episode. Well, have you traveled to different states to do like the shed hunting gig? Like, have you just stayed in Missouri area or?
Yeah. So as far as personally shed hunting, I shed hunt all over Missouri. I got a bunch of farms built up. That's where I live now. But so my dad moved here 25 years ago from Iowa, southeast Iowa. And that's where I have all my dad's half of the family over there, which is absolutely phenomenal. I'm so glad that they worked out that way. The good Lord was looking out for me when he did that. But I have hundreds and thousands of acres up there that I can walk and shed hunt too. And so I get up there every year, and it's a whole different ball game up there. It's crazy. It's big buck country for sure. Yeah. So I get up there and I shed hunt every year. I was supposed to go to Montana this year shed hunting, when I buy and sell, I know guys all over the states, and I have so many opportunities that have come from just buying and shed hunting. And so, I got guys all over the states, and I could probably shed hunt just about anywhere I wanted. But I was supposed to go to Montana this year. It fell through. I was hoping I'd get up there, but they find 40, 50, 60 sheds a day on a hike. It's crazy. It's a different ball game over there too, and they got mule deer and elk and moose and all that kind of stuff. But, as far as me shed hunting and not just buying, of course I travel all over buying stuff, but I just shed hunt mainly Missouri and Iowa.
You're welcome to come shed hunt a couple of my places if you really want to. I don't
Well,
do it a whole lot.
I know one place I'd really like to get out and walk. Yeah,
You can if you want to.
maybe find an old one off a big buck or something.
Yeah, go out there. Come on. I don't mind. I just want a couple pictures of it, and you could probably. I mean, I don't do it enough. My dad doesn't do it enough. I mean, so you'd probably find some. We've had really big deer out there. My dad killed a mid 170s out there, non-typical.
Oh wow.
Which was, and then we had a deer out there we called Buttons. At the end, he had like hollowed out antlers.
Oh wow.
I'd like to see what he looked like when he was younger. He'd be a cool shed. But one of the best places I've actually found sheds a whole lot of is our lease over on the Black Bear. And running up and down that creek, you find a lot of sheds just because the deer natural travel route. Just
oh yeah.
Walking around that creek, and it's a pretty good canopy in there. It's not too thick, so really easy for them to travel, even this time of year. The growth isn't too big, but yeah. What's the terrain like over where you're at?
I mean, I wouldn't say it's flat like you would probably think of in Kansas and stuff. It's pretty. I mean, It's pretty hilly, but I'd say we're probably a happy medium. We don't have mountains or anything, but but we have a lot of trees and a lot of thick cover, and that thick cover is the stuff I like to get in. Of course, I like an easy shed, 20 yards off the road, laying in the bean field. But I like getting in the thick stuff and beating brush and finding them in those thick bedding areas and those creek crossings and that thick stuff. Yeah, I absolutely love it. I mean, obviously, I'm a little biased because I grew up and I've been here my whole life. But I feel like if I traveled the world and I had to pick one spot, that I'd probably pick right where I'm at. I love it here. It gets a little hot for me. I'd rather be cold than hot. It gets pretty hot. Yeah. But and we have mild winters, nothing too crazy. But I absolutely love where I'm at. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful place. We have springs, creeks, rivers, and I love it. I love everything about it. Of course, I wish we had the deer, the caliber of Iowa or Kansas, but I think you can grow big deer just about anywhere. Yep.
Yeah. My deer came off of, we put in a couple food plots and stuff, but we have a big lake in the middle, but most of it's pretty natural browse, a lot of acorns, your side oats, stuff like that. But there's not really a whole lot of ag. We have a wheat field that he probably ate on a little bit, about a mile away. In fact, I know he probably ate on it, especially deep winter and stuff.
Oh shoot, yeah.
But other than that, we got him to age and he got big. Is what happened. He got to that 6.5 and he blew up. I mean, he was big before that. He's a 150-inch deer the year before, but I mean, he blew up to what he was, 188-inch.
So how long did you watch him? I know you said, the year before and the year you killed him, so obviously, but did you see him for 4 years or?
So the year before, my dad saw him in person like 2 or 3 times. First we knew, I mean, he was 5 that year, he was mature. He could have been shot.
Yep.
But I don't know. Dad just had a feeling he wanted to let him walk, and first time he let him walk, he was full arsenal. Nothing had happened. Second time, he had broken off a little bit. Third time he saw him, it was like someone took a chainsaw and just cut straight across because he broke off every one of his points. Just It was like straight across, and that made it really easy for Dad the last time. He's like, okay, he's all broke up. That was also why I hunted him so hard, because I was afraid he's going to break off, because the last 2 years he had broke up real bad. And even the year after that, I hunted a big deer after that, and he broke off. Like, it's just, I don't know. I got to figure something out there. Those deer out there have fragile antlers.
Yeah.
Out there. They're always fighting, always getting broke off. But I think I can remember having pictures of him for 3 years that I think we recognized him. I'm pretty sure. He just kept getting bigger and bigger. As the years went on, but
well, for sure, yeah.
How
big a farm was it?
120.
Gosh, my blood's boiling. There's got to be an antler laying around there somewhere.
Come on, you're welcome to come look at
Dude,
it anytime you
don't
want.
start that. I'll get in the car right now and I will start this thing up and head that way. Oh my
You can.
goodness.
We got turkeys out there. You can come out there and look for the antlers and fish a little bit if you want.
I have to talk you up on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. I couldn't even imagine, I go out and I buy these things, but if I found one, holy smokes. Crazy.
It might be out there. I've looked a little bit. I know where his bedroom was. I think I know. I didn't, so we don't like going in there a whole lot.
Yeah.
Because I just, but
we
have ever since my dad killed at 170 and I killed the 8x8, we just had deer pressure all around us like crazy. And it's just been like, dude, 2 years ago, we had like 14 bucks. I think I counted 14 bucks that we recognized all harvested around us that were on and off me and Taylor shared, because Taylor hunts like 1.5 miles, 2 miles from me.
Gotcha.
So we share deer pretty regularly, bucks especially. But yeah, I think we counted like 14 bucks that we both shared that got killed 2 years ago. It's just, yeah, if you did hunters per acre out there, the ratio would be up there.
Yeah, but has that picked up a lot since your buck was killed, or was it like that?
It was pretty, it was pretty thick before then, but it
definitely once gets people's blood boiling, they want to get out there and they have a crack.
People definitely drove around more and looked at it, because we have a food plot that's not perfectly placed because people can see it from the road.
Gotcha.
And people drive by there. They're used to a lot. I'm sure they still do, and look out there and see what kind of deer are out there. I'm hunting out there, and half the time people stop and look at our food plot, see what's out there. Deer are used to it at this point, but I'm sure we've probably had a deer poaching incident several times. It's just the way it is.
It's everywhere anymore. I mean, people, it's becoming, it's getting a little out of hand for sure.
Is it bad over there by you?
Oh yeah, it's horrible. I mean, I'd like to think it's everywhere, but people just go crazy over these big bucks. And we both know how it is. You want to kill that buck and stuff, but as far as going an extra mile and driving at night, shining lights, and just, it's crazy. It's out of hand. It's almost like, I was going to try to squeeze this in tonight, but I sold almost all my collection a long time ago. I mean, I had some crazy stuff, and I sold it all just because I was getting caught up in the money aspect of everything, which I feel like is almost the whole industry anymore. Just people are getting caught up in the money of everything. And so recently, within the last year or two, what I've been trying to do is just buy only stuff that I want to collect. It's not stuff that I think I can flip or make money off of, just so I'm, even out of respect for the animal and the deer, I'm not doing it just for the money. I'm doing it for, for me and for others, so I can share it and, just respect the deer and, but yeah, I think it's a big deal, and it's definitely something that needs to be addressed. I mean, poaching, I think, goes up there with liars and thieves. I mean, it's horrible. We want to keep this around for a long time, and it's hard to do. And especially, say, we put in all this time and all this effort trying to get these deer grown, and these guys just come out of nowhere and take it all away, and all that hard work down the drain.
So my area, it's not as bad as it used to be. The further south you go, particularly southeast corner of the state, it gets worse and worse. And I'll just say it, McCurtain County. Anybody out there from McCurtain County? You know what I'm talking about down there, boy. It's the Wild West down there, Wild East, I guess, because it's east. But they've probably got hole after hole after hole that you'll never find out there, buddy. Let me just tell you. But
it's crazy.
Different breed of cat, different breed of cat. Let me tell you. But yeah, you about sold. So you said because you were getting caught up in the money aspect, you about sold your. You did sell it, or did you sell it?
Oh yeah, I had all kinds of stuff. I mean, I had one of the biggest brow tines in the world, top 10. I had One of the biggest 8-point typical sides. It was
Mhm.
like number 4 or number 6 in the world. I had all kinds of stuff like that, and I sold everything but one antler. I kept one antler, and again, just because I was getting caught up in the money of things, I'm still pretty young, but I was a lot younger and dumber than I am now.
Yeah.
Back when I was in high school and stuff, and I was doing pretty good without a job. And, it was easy for me to just sell an antler and have a couple $100 or have a few $100. And
Mhm.
then, as I grew and I got a little smarter and stuff, I just, that's not how I want to be. When I wanted and I started collecting, I didn't want to do it for the money. I wanted to do it because I respected and I appreciated the animal and what the animal grew. So
Mhm.
I tried to step back and, buy what I thought I would just keep and, you know, instead of, making money off it or getting into it for the money.
You are 100% correct. The industry has turned into a money hog. It's almost pay to play at this point to me
Absolutely.
in a lot of places, especially I mean, yeah, we're guilty of it. I mean, we got private land we can put a lot of money into, and um, the whole. I don't know if you listen to uh, what's the podcast called? They talked to Steve Renella's brother, and he talked about leasing land and how money's generated and everything, and um, it gets you go down a rabbit hole with all that, but it a lot of people. That's what me and Taylor said when we started this thing. We didn't want it to be about, if we got to a point where we were going to make money, we never wanted that to be the 100% focal point of why we did this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we've kind of shifted our gears a little bit. So we were straight media at first, doing videos, trying to put out things. And then we turned into we do charities and stuff now. And then we help out with, like I told you, beginning of this podcast is
With the veterans.
it's kind of turned into that, and it's really put into perspective what we want this to be. So I'm glad that some people get it, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's so much carefree and stress-free when you're worried about all that stuff. When you're
Mhm.
just in it for, like the main and sole purpose of sharing, spreading, and appreciating.
Mhm. I got asked the other day on one of our lives, um, how now do what's your advice for somebody if they killed, a deer like I did? How do they keep getting excited while hunting? Well, that's an easy answer for me. Remember why you did it in the first place.
Yeah, for sure.
That's always where I come back to. I don't feel like I've missed a step. I still love it just as much. I probably love it even more because I get to do this with it. And like, I love to hunt. I love to talk hunting. I love to do this media side of it. And that's what that was easy for me. I know it's not easy for everybody, but it was so easy for me to, that whole thing was cool, you know, talking to people and everything. But even from the beginning of that, people tried to give me money to where I wouldn't tell anybody else the story. I'd only tell certain people the story. I'd keep my mouth shut. I just didn't, I was offered
Yeah.
for a college kid, for a freshman in college, a lot of money. I didn't take it. And I'm proud of myself for not taking it. Should I have taken it? I don't know. But I always, they didn't even want me talking to like my local newspaper people.
Wow.
And those people, when I was playing like high school football and stuff, that guy, so the old high school football guy that used to do my stories for high school football in the state or whatever, and then would come in our
Gotcha.
county, he moved over and he was doing different types of stories, and he called me up and he wanted me to talk to him about it. And he was always good to me, you know what I mean, in high school and doing that stuff. So I'm going to be good to him. I'm glad I didn't do any of that where I'm like, man, I'm sorry I can't talk to you.
Yeah.
I'm grateful that I was able to understand that as early as I did.
Absolutely. Like I've never been in this situation, but I feel like that's the way I'd want to be as well. I'd want to share the animal and I want to share the story and stuff, but I don't want to get caught up in all that money stuff. That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or politics, all that stuff, keeping hush to certain people so that it could benefit others. And that's crazy.
Yeah. No, it got wild there for a little bit. I've always been respect the animal type person anyway. God gave us these, these animals.
Absolutely.
He says, make your quiver and bow and go hunt them for me. He said those words, and it's not just go hunt them and disrespect them. It's hunt them, respect them.
Absolutely.
And that's truly what I believe.
For sure.
From
If you
that
lose that
scripture,
respect for the animal and you don't respect the animal, you don't deserve to hunt. You don't deserve to, have those resources.
No, not at all. Not at all. So I'd like to shift gears a little bit here.
Yes, sir.
You don't have to name any names if you don't want to.
Yeah.
You can name names. I'll start if you want to. I'll start with this.
Okay.
What are your favorite, what are the favorite pieces of your collection? Like, do you have a couple that you are like, man, that's super cool?
Gotcha. So I
I'm glad
think
I
what
have
you're
this.
referring to is the reason I originally reached out to you. So
Yes,
along
yes.
with Antler collecting, I've been recently putting together I call it like a historic display. And so I've been reaching out to guys like you who've killed, historic and just world-class deer. And, in stepping away from the antler itself and the headgear, which is what everybody focuses on, but, reaching out and trying to get a different piece of the antler. So, like, for example, Dustin Huff, amazing guy, one of the coolest, nicest guys I've ever met. So I have part of the deer stand that he killed his deer out of, and I have handwritten letters from him, just stuff like that, that people wouldn't think that, it's anything special or anything, but in 20 or 30 years when that deer's, all over and it's got, all kinds of publicity and stuff, that stuff's going to be, that's historic stuff. That's like having a hat that George Washington wore or something,
Yeah.
And along with that, I have some crazy stuff. It's crazy to think of, but Mitch Rompola, I have handwritten letters from him, and, like pictures signed from him, all kinds of stuff. I was able to get a hold of him and talk to him and stuff. It's been crazy. And, like it or not, that's one of the most controversial and talked about deer of all time.
Yeah, that caught me off guard.
Yeah, me too. I remember writing him, not thinking much of it because, the guys just fell off the face of the earth. You never think this little kid in Missouri who likes antlers could get a hold of him and talk to him. And sure enough, I just happened to track him down, wrote him letters, and, just seemed like a super cool guy, just like another really cool guy. And we wrote back a bit, and I got, like I said, I got framed pictures and stuff of him writing stories about the deers and stuff. It's pretty cool. And going back to that, that most controversial deer of all time, the Johnny King buck.
There we go.
Yep. I got that deer's bottom jaw. So yeah. So stuff like that.
We gotta come visit you, dude. Like, we got to come visit you and look at some of this stuff because that is crazy. Taylor's going to be so mad he's not on this podcast.
It is cool. So there's a collector named Jay Fish. He's a super cool guy. He's the one who owns the deer. So I have the bottom jaw and he signed it. And then Johnny King wasn't with him at the time, but we're going to have Johnny sign the jaw as well. And then, of course, I got, a handwritten thing from him saying that it's from that buck. I like that handwritten stuff. It's from, it's history. If you think about it, it's no different than a baseball card from a famous baseball player. So Davey Stuckey, he's killed 2 world-class deer. I don't know if you're familiar, but the last one he killed, it has a third antler growing out of its eye. I have the crossbow bolt that he killed that from. Derek Sayek, I don't want to ruin his last name, but it's I got 260s out of Iowa. It's one of the biggest deer ever killed, and it might be the Iowa State record. I have both arrows that he killed that buck with. So he shot that deer twice. I have both those arrows. The New Hampshire buck, the John Clucky, it's New Hampshire State record typical. I have the original score sheets, and I have newspaper articles, magazines, all kinds of stuff from that buck when it was killed. Another cool one is the Brian Butcher buck. I don't know if you recognize, or I don't know if you recognize the name, but as soon as you see the picture, you'd recognize it. It's 320 some inches out of Kansas. It's the biggest non-typical ever killed in Kansas. So I have velvet from that deer's rack. So when Klaus did the replicas, they had to strip a lot of that velvet. So I have velvet from that rack, and stuff like that. So I've got some other stuff, Bob Haney. Bob Haney killed one of the, biggest deer of all time. It's like frame, and it's got over 200 inches. It's one of the biggest. I think you could put it against just about any rack and it'd look amazing. You know, it's probably not crazy record in the scorebook, but it's one of the biggest deer of all time, I think. And I got a shed from that buck, you know, that he found himself, and it's nothing crazy. It's not a mint shed. It's chewed up and stuff, but the history behind it and the handwritten letters with that, I just love that stuff. Yep.
So I think I just figured out what I'm going to give you, actually.
Oh boy, you got an antler you're hiding from me that you didn't tell me about, and you're gonna send me.
I actually don't have an. I wish I would send it to you. So I'm getting a new sight. Do you want the sight I shot him with?
Shoot, yeah, absolutely. That would be amazing. That would. I mean, that's.
I might. I was thinking. So there's a couple things. I have the rope that I pulled the my bow up in my tree and down in my tree too in there. I could give you the sight, maybe a piece of that rope, and then I know where he was laying. I was thinking about maybe like I don't know, canning up or putting some dirt in it or whatever where he laid or something. That'd be kind of cool. I don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, I'm like I tell the guys when I try to, you know, I reach out to a bunch of these guys, and you know, sometimes you get the cold shoulder. Sometimes they're some of the coolest people you ever met. Like, you know, like you're a pretty cool guy. But
Appreciate that.
you know, I mean, I got all kinds of stuff. You'd never think, you know, that someone would want, you know, velvet off the deer's rack or the cables that was from the deer stand or something like that. But yeah, I got all kinds of cool stuff. I mean, stuff that people wouldn't think there's anything, but you know, when you put it all together, you get, you know, a little something from all these historic deer and stuff, and it's pretty cool. Yeah, I love it.
I can probably get you a printed picture with it too, so you can have that, and then like, you know what I mean, have the picture, and then have what it, you know, it goes with it. Just to, I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll
and then
think
like
of
a handwritten
something.
letter with it and stuff. Yeah, that stuff's priceless in my book.
Yeah, I'll put something together. You're gonna have to send me where I need to send that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Or if I get down there shed hunting to find that shed, I might just have to pick it up.
Yeah, come on, let me know anytime. So you said some people give you the cold shoulder. You know, like I said, I wouldn't say any names here if you don't want to, but you can if you want. If you want to put them on blast, put them on blast. But are people? I to see that's troubling to me because I don't understand. I can understand where people might be like, I'm good. I kind of want to keep my stuff, but were people ever come back at you just like jerks?
I mean, I haven't been doing, you know, this historic stuff as long as I've been doing antlers. It's just a recent thing I've been picking up. I wouldn't say I try not to judge anybody by what I've heard about them. I try to make my own judgment on personal dealings. So, you know, like I can't tell you about this guy just from, you know, one message I've sent him on Facebook. So I'm not going to name any names, and there really hasn't been any, you know, any bad dealings with anybody. You know, when I say cold shoulder, you know, I just a red receipt and then they never text me back, or it's that's different. I'll think about it, and then I never hear back from them again, which I totally understand. It probably would seem weird to someone who's not passionate about it or doesn't really think much of it, but we're all human at the end of the day. And I know some of them guys, I can't I can't speak for them because I don't know them, but I'd say some of them guys, with all that attention and stuff that they get from that deer, they probably got a big head and they probably don't see us like they see everybody else. Yeah
I can tell you I don't like to harp on the fact that I killed the deer that I killed all the time because I don't want people to think I'm like that. But I like to tell stories about it just because not everybody understands exactly what the heck I had to, what was going on with me. Like sometimes I wouldn't talk to some people for a while. And it's because I was just overwhelmed with everything. It was just wild. So like to put in perspective, we have a news anchor, Lacey Lowry here in Oklahoma. I mean, very recognizable. This just puts into perspective how crazy it was for me. She's messaging me on Facebook and I didn't even recognize who it was. And I was just talking to her like a normal human, how I tried to talk to everybody. I tried to reach out to everybody who messaged me. I did podcasts with people who had like one subscriber. Like I tried to be that guy that gave everyone the time because I wanted to treat people how I would like to be treated if I was in their shoes.
Absolutely.
If I could do it, I wanted to do it. That's just how I wanted to attack it. I didn't want to change. I wanted to be the same old me, Didn't matter what happened. It didn't matter if I got a bajillion dollars from someone bought the deer and made a replica. I didn't care. I wanted to be the same old me, and I wanted to treat everyone, the
Absolutely.
way I would want to be treated.
Yeah, I think that's the best
And-
part about it too, is being humble in the situation, because at the end of the day, we're all going to answer to the same good Lord, and nobody's better than anybody else. We're all here doing the same thing, and you just have to be humble in whatever you do.
Yeah. And like I said, Lacey, we were just messaging, and I was just so caught up with answering everybody, I didn't even realize who it was. And I showed Taylor. I was like, look at all these messages. He says, he looks down there and he's like, Lacey Lowry's messaging you. And I kind of was like, my brain just wasn't there. And I said, who? And then I looked down. I was like, oh, the state news anchor from News 9 that's on every single day. The entire state separate from Tulsa sees, and just put in perspective how crazy that gets. I like, whenever you messaged me, I was like, oh, what can I give him? I don't even know. It's been a while. Like I was trying to think that I'd get busy and then start thinking about things. I think I may have the arrow. If I do, I think it is. I'm gonna have to ask Dad again, but I think I have that. You're welcome to at least have a piece of that somewhere, or maybe the whole arrow. I'll see if I can, if it is it.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, no, I think, and I've always been forward about this. It's cool what you do, because it's almost like you are, what's the word? Honoring, I guess, like preserving the memory of these animals with your sheds and with your collection. I think that's super cool in itself. Yeah. And it's really cool that you enjoy it the way that you do.
Oh yeah, it's out of total respect for the deer and the animal as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you use the word preserving, and that's what I try to do. It's history. Like everything else, it's history. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad that this is a chapter in the book that God's writing for me. And I wouldn't change anything about it. If this is what I'm meant to do, and with it, do stuff like this to where I can, show and spread the love and the gift and the passion that God's give me and the path that He's taken me down. This is what makes it all worth it. I really appreciate you guys having me on today and giving me a platform so I can talk about it and spread the word. It's been pretty cool.
We're going to have to. So Taylor and I have talked about, following up with some guests or whatever, like going to them, doing an in-person thing. I think that's going to have to be in the books, because I have to see some of the stuff. It's so, like, for me, I don't, before I met you online, I didn't really understand how cool it was to have items of these animals. I really didn't. It didn't strike me as something that anybody would ever do. And now that I know you do it, I think it's super freaking awesome, honestly. But so to kind of wrap this, whole thing up, what are your future plans with this whole thing? What do you hope to achieve, in the end with this new venture that you've got going on?
Gotcha. So I hope to continue to do it and be able to share and build my collection. I think right now where I'm at, I am trying to build more of a quality over quantity. I've been through a lot of antlers, and like I said, I've sold a lot, and I want to stay to where, again, I'm not in it for the money, but I'm in it for the preservation and to honor and respect the animal and share it with others. It's crazy the looks you get when you're set up at a little show and people come up and, who've hunted and seen deer, but they pick up an antler that's, probably the biggest they'll ever see in their life. Just the look on their face and stuff. And it's absolutely, it's what makes it all worth it. And to be able to share my story and continue to go, and the people I meet, I've been traveling all over, mainly just around the states around Missouri, but a 6 to 7, 8 hour car ride to meet somebody and talk in a parking lot for an hour about antlers. That's what makes it all worth it. I love being able to tell my story and share it with others. And, these antlers that's what keeps me going. This is my purpose, I feel like, and I'm glad that God gave me this passion and I can share it and take it along with others. And, again, with hunting and everything, my brother, he's the best hunter I know. I mean, he'll go out there and pick out a deer and he can kill just about any deer, I tell people. But we love antlers, and it's just, again, something I'm so passionate about, and the fact that I get to somehow build a platform out of it and share it with others is just what makes it all worth it for me. I absolutely love it.
So if somebody is on here and they're listening and they're like, man, that'd be cool to preserve my deer in that way or whatever, if they want to get a hold of you about anything, where can they get a hold of you at?
Absolutely. So I'm a big Facebook guy. So just Google me on Facebook. It'll be Bailey Pearson. You'll see me. I'm sitting there holding probably the Johnny King buck. I got a picture of me holding him right now. But it'll be just me surrounded by antlers. And I like to post and do a lot of stuff on there. That's mainly what I'm doing. I'm also on email, Instagram, just about whatever. Anything other than Facebook, I'll be under Sheds and Deads. Sheds and Deadheads, just about anything there. But again, if you shoot me a text on Facebook, I get you my phone number, email, just about anything. But yep, I'm always looking for antlers, big antlers. I'm willing to travel. I got cash in hand, and I'm just looking to add some antlers to the collection, preserve the history, and share it with others. I said earlier that when I first sold my collection, I kept one antler, and it's one you're gonna have to hold, which I'm sure you'll get to hold in the future. But this is it. So the G3 on this antler is number 2 in the world. It's 16
cool.
It's 16 and an eighth long. It's crazy. It's on a big 4-point. It's out of Ohio. It's kind of looks stupid, crazy in the camera, but it's actually this big. It's crazy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then I brought one more I'd like to show off a little bit. It's
show it.
It just come in the mail not too long ago. It's supposed to be off a roadkill buck out of Iowa. It's a cutoff, but it's from burr to tip of the G2. It's 22 inches tall. The G2 is over 17, and it's on a 96-inch typical antler.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard to get a grasp without having it in hand. But it's antlers like this to where when I'm set up and someone comes up and a little 10, 12-year-old kid picks that up and is like, holy cow, this is that's what it's all about for me.
I imagine. I can't even fathom, honestly. But
you can. You got one of the prettiest typicals in the world for sure. I remember when you first killed that deer, people were talking about, it's going to beat Milo's buck, which is technically the world record buck in the books. But, I remember all the hype around that. And I still think it's one of the prettiest typicals of all time.
Yeah. I got messages from people in Venezuela and Canada telling me they was cheering for Milo and stuff. I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
Go for it.
I've never met Milo, so I don't know how he is. And again, I don't like to judge people on what I've heard, but what I know and what I've seen myself. But I can't say anything bad about the guy. But I think the deer's been beat, and I think that it needs to be dethroned. And I think Johnny King owns that spot. I think so. And of course, if it's a what if buck, but the Rompola buck, if it ever comes out, if it's real,
what do you think about it?
Gosh, it's hard to.
We get up here because I forgot to ask you about it.
It's totally up in the air. It's crazy. I'm one of those guys. I want to believe it's all legit. I want to believe it's beat. Again, nothing against Milo, but records are meant to be broken. That deer is an absolute behemoth of a typical, beautiful deer. I was rooting for Dustin when his buck was killed, because I think when you put those deer next to each other, that deer is so much more prettier. But again, it's a score, and at the end of the day, they're both legit and they're phenomenal deer. But I think, man, I want to say it's real. I can't say for sure, but I want to say that Rompola is a real buck, But I've held and I've fondled the Johnny King buck, and I think he was cheated, and it's definitely the world record. That's what I mean. That's just, of course, it's facts, but it's an opinion as well. And CJ Alexander, I want to say that buck's legit. I'm praying and hoping that kid did everything legit.
We've talked about that a little bit. We've been very like, come on, people, let's just wait and see.
Yeah, for sure.
He's been getting crucified, and we don't really know.
Absolutely.
And that's something that we've talked about. Like, it's almost like now you kill a big deer and it's just like they're knocking on your door to take it away already. Like it just seems like no one believes things can be legit anymore, and it's you're a felon no matter what. You know what I mean? It's just wrong.
Absolutely. When you kill something that could possibly make the state or somebody money, or take away from something, that I mean, it's again, it goes back into that money thing. If the state gets that buck into a you know into their conservation office and they can travel around with a game warden, they're going to get publicity and stuff out of that. So I don't know. I want to believe that that's 100% true, that he did it right. Then that's again, it's just an opinion. I watched the podcast with him on. I think he's a good guy. That's just the opinion and the what I've come to, put my trust in. But I'd like to think he's a good guy and that he did it all right. But again, I guess we'll find out.
I hope we find the truth and there's not any, like, you know what I mean, like railroading in this whole deal. I hope
for sure.
I hope it goes through correctly and we find out exactly what happened. And for his sake, I hope, he is telling the truth, because that is an awesome deer. I've heard, did you hear anything on the Rompola thing about how Milo, there was some dealings there about
a write-off or something?
Yeah, I heard rumblings of that. I can't really speak on it because I don't know for sure. It's coming off the top of my head here. I didn't know if you heard anything about
Again, I'm a little like you. I'm a little ignorant to the situation, but from what I understand, is there was supposed to be something, after he killed the buck and after the numbers and word started spreading that it was going to beat Milo's. Which, if it's legit, the score sheet, I mean, it just blows it out of the water. I mean, by 10 inches. I mean, it's crazy. And, from my understanding is, he got a phone call one day from someone who was supposed to be tied with Milo, and then he fell off the end of the face of the earth. I mean, the rack disappeared, which, I mean, I'm on Facebook groups, and there's hundreds and thousands of people in these groups that are rooting for him and fans of him and stuff. And that, they claim to have talked to his son and stuff. And the son says the deer's, it's there, but they say that nothing will ever come to light when Milo's alive. So, and I hate for the guy to die to, for clarity to come out. If it's legit, I'd love for him to get that thrown while he's alive. But they say that there was some kind of write-off or something that caused him to hide the buck, so it didn't meet Milo's. But again, that's all hearsay. I mean, I that's just from my understandings.
Yeah. Looking at that deer, it's crazy. Some people just at a certain point, they just say, I don't care anymore. You know what I mean? It's not worth it to me. And I almost want to think that might have happened with him, where he's like, this is not worth it to me. I don't really care that much. This is not why I do it.
Absolutely. So and CJ was kind of giving me that vibe too, when I was watching the podcast, he's not doing it all for the publicity and all that stuff. He just wants his deer back, and he wants to get out of that limelight and stuff. But I see where you're going with that too. If all that controversy and stuff was around me, I'd want to fall off the face of the earth too. Just take my deer, get out of there, enjoy it myself, even though, it's all ruined, and I would love to share it with everybody. If all that drama and controversy is going to be around me, I wouldn't want to be in it either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I heard he was always like a to himself kind of guy anyway. Like he just didn't care for anything but just hunting and doing what he wanted to do, and not being really, don't tread on me. Like, I just want to do what I want to do, and it would make sense if he got to a point where he just said,
screw it.
Yeah. I don't care enough
exactly
to deal with all of you people, and more power to him. But it would be cool one day. I'm hoping one day we do, it does come to light.
Yeah. I mean, good or bad, it'd be nice to have some closure, that rack.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
very cool.
He's originally from Missouri, and he, back one of his first deer he ever killed was the Missouri state record. And it was only beat out by him. He beat out his own Missouri state record. So he's been known for killing big deer, and it's every year. So one of the things that I have from him, it's a picture. It's got him standing behind a barn, and there's 10 or 15 big racks, mounted. And then he come out and he wrote everything. There's a 198-inch Missouri deer, and there's a 201-inch Michigan deer, and another, just all these big deer. So he's not, it's not unknown for him to kill big deer. So, but it's again, it's just a big controversy thing, and we may never know. I mean, it may never come in my lifetime, but I hope one day I see closure and see some more, facts or something.
Mm-hmm. Well, one more time before we get off here. Where can people find you? Where can they contact you if they have any questions or want to talk to you about any of this stuff?
Yep, absolutely. So the main thing is just get a hold of me on Facebook. That's one of the better places to get a hold of me. I'll get back to you as soon as I can, pretty quick, actually. Bailey Pearson on Facebook, and that pretty much covers it all. I mean, I'm not on the other platforms very much. If you get a hold of me on Facebook, I can get you my phone number, my email, and I'll try to get you back to you there. But, yep, I'm pretty good on Facebook, and that's pretty much where you can contact me.
Yeah. Well, speaking from, this podcast and just talking to you, I mean, you're a great dude, and
I appreciate you.
It's really cool what you're doing. Keep doing it. I know I sound like a coach over here, but keep doing it. It's really cool, especially from someone like me seeing it all. And for the people out there listening, this guy is super easy to deal with, super, fun to deal with. And yeah, if he contacts you asking for something,
hear me out.
Hear him out a little bit. I'll help him out a little bit, but that concludes our whatever number of episode this is. Sorry, Taylor couldn't be here. His Wi-Fi crapped out, so it's just us two today. But yeah, we'll see you. I think it comes out tomorrow. So
good deal.
Peace.
Absolutely. See ya.